I want to thank everybody for coming tonight and giving me your time. Please understand that this is being recorded so that we can go back and when you lie on me and tell me how good a job I can um, go against that. So let me see if I can share this with you. Okay. All righty. So again, welcome to District 37 training for club president. Um, so as we go forward here, if you have a question, speak up. That's the best time to do it. Don't worry about interrupting me. A lot of people will wait until the very end, but I just as soon cover it up because your question may be the same as what somebody else has. You know, they have a saying, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Well, yes, there is. The one that you don't ask, that's a stupid question.
Right.
So please, if you have a question, mention it, bring it up. So our objectives today is basically pretty easy. It's to know and understand what's going on as the president. Your duties of your position, okay? How to plan your year. I know that's tough for a lot of people, planning, because in the military they told me a plan is only good as first contact, which is, believe it or not, is true, even as a club president. Okay. What's expected of you as the leader? Understand, you are the leader of the club. Okay. And everybody looks to you as to where they're going and what they're doing, where to find some of your resources so that you can answer some of your own questions and get more resources and get more knowledge than even what I'm going to give you today, and how to enjoy your year. A lot of people seem to think that the presidency is the toughest job, and if it's done right, it's the easiest job. It really, truly is. Okay. Roles of the president. You are the chief executive. You're the CEO. Okay. Everybody looks at you. You're at the top of the heap. There's only one level above the president. And believe it or not, that's the club. Because the club members get to decide a lot of things, even though the president wants to do something different. The club, the members are ultimately in charge. So you're going to call and preside at the club, at the board of directors, and special meetings. So you need to be prepared for those meetings. You don't just want to walk in and say, well, here I am. Let's get started. Okay. So do you see my black line? Oh, there we go. I got rid of it. Okay. Appoint committee chairs and members. A lot of people will ask for volunteers. If you know your people and you've talked to them and you have an understanding of what they like, where they want to go, you can appoint. You don't have to wait for volunteers. Okay. That's one of your rights as a president. Ensure regular elections are called and held. That's probably the most important thing as a president, is to ensure that the elections are called and held according to bylaws and the contracts. Okay. Attend cabinet, zone, and region meetings. It's surprisingly how important a district cabinet meeting is when you don't have other club presidents. Because most of the district governors, having been one myself, really get a lot of information from you club presidents because you're there at that level. You see what's going on all the time. And so to attend, it's a twofold thing. You attend a district cabinet zone or region meetings, you come away with information that you may not have had before. We understand that it's your club, your way. But when you know where the district is going, you know where the zone is going, or a region, and because you attended those meetings, you can come back and you can actually help your club down the road in doing some of the things that they're doing, or learn something new that other clubs are doing that maybe your club can do to help out your constituents, your residents in your community. And do and report at zone meetings because it's really important that you have the club, you have the zone, you have the region, you have the cabinet. That's how the information flows up. And unless you attend zone meetings, then the zone chair really doesn't get any reports from you. And so when they go to a cabinet meeting, they've got nothing to report because the club presidents didn't attend. Okay, as a chief executive officer, authority in the club is not absolute. You're not the king, okay? You're the president. Yeah, you get to make decisions. You get to guide the club on where it's going, or hopefully, but your authority is not absolute. The club is, okay? And your authority comes from the club as a whole. They, as a club, give you the authority. If you take it and run with it and they don't like it, guess what? You lose because the club as a whole has the power to do all this. But you have the authority in this case, if in the leadership, to guide the club on where it's going. The club's constitution and bylaws. Read them, understand them. Because a lot of times you as the president want to do something and the club will come back and say, no, we want to do this. And you go, nope, our constitution or our bylaws says this. Because you have the knowledge, they haven't read the constitution and bylaws, they don't really understand it. But as a club president, it's your responsibility to understand those items. Board of directors. Some clubs have them, some clubs don't. Board of directors, we'll get into it a little bit more a little bit later on, takes away not any authorities, but it frees up the club to have conversations on things that they need to be concerned about and not necessarily all of the mundane things like budgets and things like that, because that's all done at the board level. You have to report to the club. The club still has to understand what's going on. Okay. Board of directors consists of president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, immediate past president. And then there's a 2-year and a 1-year director that's voted on at the club, and membership chairperson. And optional members can be your tail twister, your lion tamer, club branch coordinator if you have a branch club. These all make up the directors. So as you can see, as the years go by, year after year after year, your board of directors changes. The only ones that don't are the ones that are elected by the club for the 2-year and the 1-year. That way you've got a new non-officer as part of the board every year. You get a new person. And what they are the representative from the club to the board of directors. Now, depending on how you want it, you can have the tail twister if you want to start, paying for farbles and all the stuff that tail twisters and lion tamers do. Can make meetings a little more fun, but totally up to you, if applicable. Okay, so some of the things that the board is going to do. They're going to review and refer all new business appropriately, shape new policies. Okay. If somebody comes to you and let's say they want the club to participate in something or do something, or they want the club to give them money for something, the board is the best place to go for this. The board can do their research, they can take a look at it, decide what they want to do before they bring it to the club. So they're actually a step in between, because what happens if this goes to the club first, then you've got 50 members, hopefully they're all there, and all the discussion goes down, and you're off in the weeds somewhere, and that 1 hour limit that you gave yourself ends up being 2.5, because everybody has to have their say. But if the board has already reviewed everything and sort of kind of decided, it makes a whole lot easier. Approve expenditures, arrange for audits. They're good for doing your budget. They look at the budget, look at the money coming in, money going out, all the projects. They do the budget, they approve it, and that gives all the committee members, committee chairs, they know how much they can spend on their committee, but it gives the club a way of understanding where their money is coming and going. Okay, bonding. So if you're big enough and you got enough money and you feel that the treasurer needs to be bonded, then the board of directors will approve this. It's not something that is up for the club. The board of directors will do this. So you'll see this a couple more times during the presentation. You have to maintain 2 separate accounts. One is administrative, which is Lions money. Okay. And the other is an active, which is public money. My club, for instance, has a checking account that is public money. We have a savings account that has administrative money. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. That way we have total separation between the two. Public money can only be spent on the public. Administrative money can be spent on whatever you want. It's the club's money to do what they want. But we're going to get into that a little bit more. Modify, overrule, or rescind officer actions. Okay. So if you've got a vice president or a secretary or even the treasurer is doing things they're not supposed to be doing, guess what? The board of directors can overrule or remove or rescind an officer or their actions, okay? Because it's not right. All right, before your term begins, a lot of people don't think about this. You know, they just assume July 1st, tag, you're it. That game that we learned really young. And so July 1st is, well, I'm in charge. Here we go. No. I mean, that is the way it is, but you really need to begin the moment that you are elected as going to be the new president. Now, you're not going to be it until July 1st, but you need to start looking at where you're going and what you're doing. You should understand member motivations and needs. Understand your people. Okay. You've got some person that is absolutely adamant about wanting to clean the highway. Okay. Well, that might be a good person to put in charge of the highway cleanup committee. Even though Sam over there has been doing it for 50 years, now you've got somebody else that might be able to take over. We're going to get into that a little bit more too. But understand where these people are coming from, especially new members. You get a new member, talk to them, find out what motivates them, what they're interested in. Because if you don't grab them right in the beginning and get them started in doing something, you're going to lose them. Review your club's officers' team manual. There was one, and I mean, I have one. Larry, have you seen any of those around lately? I mean, the district had those for a long time. Um,
I haven't seen one for some time,
yeah,
uh, but I think you might go online for lionsclubs.org under membership resources, and
yeah,
they may have one under there.
we may have one under there. I haven't looked, so um, participate again in district events, conventions, meetings. If you haven't signed up for convention, you should do so. Convention is a time that is it's a lot of fun, and it's a time to meet hundreds of people, well, maybe 100 people that are like you. They're all lions, they're all interested, and it is just a fun time. And as many of those as I've been to, I learned something almost every one. But it's a lot of fun and bring money. That's the best part. Participate in club officer training. If you're having, say, this kind of training, or treasurer's training, or secretary's training, and let's say your secretary is having some issues, or the treasurer is having some issues, and you bring somebody in, okay? Be a part of that. Don't say, well, Susie May, here you go. You go be the secretary and y'all have fun. No, there's a lot of training out there for all of this, not just this here. Be
Can I
familiar
interject
with,
something here, Mike?
yes, sir.
I just, for those that are new, uh, I'm sitting in here. I've been district governor a couple of times, and I've been a president. I don't know how many. I've quit counting, but I sit on these to remind me of stuff that I have forgotten. Because even though we've served, there are things that we forget about, and when we're serving our club, it's good to be able to have that refreshed uh,
Yep.
memory to fall back on.
Every time we think we know too much, we realize we know too little, literally. So a lot of people, well, where do I find our bylaws and our constitution? Most clubs, mine included, we just use the standard form Lions Club Constitution and bylaws, the LA2 that LCI puts out. You can get that on the website, and you can also get it from montanalions.org. That would be the good place to start understanding what the Constitution and bylaws are, unless your club has its own, and your club can do that. But understand, your club can do more than what LCI says. They can't do less. Okay. So district constitution and bylaws it's on the website, montanalions. montanalions.org. Be familiar with it. It's pretty much the same, but there are some things from the district standpoint that we can get into. And I can make this 3 hours long if we wanted to go there, but I'm not gonna. That's your homework. Understand where these are at. They're all montanalions.org. International Constitution bylaws, the LA2. All right. Again, you can do more, but you can't do less. If they say you have to have this, then you have to have that. It tells you when you have to have your meetings by, and what to do and how to do it. Elections are very important. Start early, right after election, like I said. Get permission from your current club president. Understand you're not the president yet. You're not president until July 1st. So don't start stepping all over the toes of the current president. Get together with he or she and talk to them. Find out how their year went, things that maybe they wanted to do better, or things that they did that didn't go quite well. but talk to them, get permission to do things. Okay. And don't just have a club meeting and start putting stuff out there when you're not in a position to do so. Meet with your incoming officers, your new secretary, your new treasurer. A lot of clubs, your treasurer and secretary are year after year after year after year. Mostly because nobody wants to be the treasurer and nobody wants to be the secretary. But get together with them, find out what works for them, find out what doesn't work for them. Things that they would like you to do or see or anything like that. But meet with them. Don't just say, okay, well, I'm the president. This is what we're going to do. It's my way or the highway. That's the best way to lose everybody. Appoint your chairs and committee members. Understand what chairs you need. Highway cleanup chair, your pancake dinner chair, your parade chair, whatever they happen to be, and find out who they are and appoint them and help them get committee members. Technically, it's up to the committee chair to get their own members. But if you have the highway cleanup chair and you say, oh, by the way, John over here has shown some interest in wanting to do that, you might want to go talk to him. And have everybody on board July 1st. Because like that game we learned when we were young, tag, you're it. All questions come to you. They want to know what's going on. And you're the head of this mess. If replacing someone, talk to them, especially if they've been doing something for a long time. Don't just say, Sam, I know you've been head of the highway cleanup for the last 15 years, but I'm going to give it to John over here. So thank you very much for your time. Nope, that's not how it works. You get together with Sam and, kind of work it with him. Sam, I got a guy over here that's really interested in being the chair. Have you thought about maybe taking a break? What happens if something happens to you? Who's going to take over? Maybe you should, talk to John over here and help him along, be his mentor. Okay. Don't just say you're gone and you're it. Okay. Secretaries, record keeping. You may have a different way of looking at records and how you want to do them. That doesn't mean your way is wrong, but that doesn't mean the way he or she has been doing it is wrong either. Find out how they're doing it. Maybe get together and figure out a better way or another way, or maybe a new electronic way. Yeah, I know you've been the treasurer and you're using a checkbook, but have you ever thought about using Quicken or QuickBooks or some other form of electronic software that might help? So, and it includes all of it, financial member minutes, committees. The secretary specifically should have all the minutes from years past. Okay. Maybe a 3-ring binder from each committee on what they do, how they do it, best practices type of thing. And obviously the minutes. So reporting of the board of the directors in the district and LCI, signing authority, especially at the bank, because now you sign checks. And if you weren't a signature as first vice, you are now. So you and the treasurer, maybe some of the board members are going to have to get together and go to the bank or your financial institution. And so you can sign checks. And normally my club is 2 signatures. I'm the treasurer, so I sign one. I get the check over to the president. He signs it, and then we deal with it. Bonding, we talked a little bit about. A lot of clubs don't have it, but a lot of clubs do. Bonding is not going to change if the treasurer does not change. If the treasurer changes, then you've got to go and redo the bonding for the treasurer. Again, establish two accounts. It's the treasurer's responsibility, not yours as the president, but ultimately it is yours, okay? Because the buck stops here. And we talked about that, administrative money. That's dues. A lot of clubs like mine, we have an insurance, KW Insurance. They put on a luncheon every year for all of his clients because most of them are all farmers. And we put that on for him. And he pays us $1,000. That is not a Lions project. That's not a club project. We are being paid to do this for them. That's administrative money that the club can use for whatever they want. Okay. You're having a meeting and you've decided that at this meeting, you're going to buy pizza for everybody. That's administrative money. Public money is not used for that kinds of stuff. That's administrative money. That's your dues or administrative money. Okay. But anytime you as a Lions Club do something as a fundraiser, that's public money. So again, fines, your 50-50, any of that kind of stuff that you do. We have a gift thing that we do in every meeting. And sometimes it's a gag gift and sometimes it's not. You know, people will put in a couple bucks to get a ticket and they get whatever at the end of it. And for us, that money goes to LCIF. That's one of the things that we do with it. So an activity, public money, all funds raised. You're doing the pancake dinner and the people pay you $5 or whatever. That's public money. That money is used to go back to the club, back to the public for whatever reason. We did a thing where we had a pancake dinner and it was free. We told everybody, nope, we do not want donations. This is a time for us to give back to the community. And that's the way it was presented. And we made $900 because the residents just wanted to be sure that the club has money to continue with. We didn't ask for any money. We told them it was free. But again, that's public money. It's from the public and is never used for Lions in any way, shape, or form.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to remind people that the charitable money can be used to purchase products that are used for fundraising proceeds.
Yes. Yeah.
They don't have to use their administrative funds for that.
Because what you're doing is for the community. You know, you can't, it's like the $600 that we spent on our pancake dinner. That came out of public funds. Okay. Even though we made money. So, but yes. Thank you, Larry. Budget through your finance committee. A lot of clubs don't have a budget. They just know that we have $10,000 in the bank, $7,000 in savings, and they don't know what to do with it. I visited one club that had their annual fundraiser. They have $27,000 in the bank. And I asked the club when I was there, so what are you going to do with this money? I don't know. Technically speaking, all the dollars that you get that year need to go back to the community. This isn't a build the bank account until it's so damn big you don't know what to do with it. If you gained $7,000 that year in fundraising, that $7,000 is supposed to go back to the community some way, somehow. So at the end of the year, you're at zero. Doesn't necessarily work that way, because most clubs like to keep a little bit of money year after year and build it up just in case something really big happens, I guess, and then you can work with it. Whether it's a disaster or what, who knows? But
Mike, that also can be where you lose a major fundraiser or one that you've counted on that isn't available anymore. We had one that had disappeared. And so we used some of our carryover funds that we had saved for this year's budget to make up for that loss.
exactly. And so that's why a lot of clubs like to leave a little extra in the public funds, just so that they can meet budget depending on what's going on. But those are the things that the board of directors can look at, or the club as a whole can look at if you don't have a board. So some of your resources, working with other officers and committees. Okay. Lions Learning Center. So you go to USA Canada Forum and you go to their university. They have 3 programs: bachelor's, master's, and a PhD. The bachelor's is for club officers, and it covers mostly the president, but all of them. And so it gives you a good rounded understanding of what Lions is. So Jack, I mean, if you go to USA Canada Forum, you sign up, it's free, and you do their bachelor's program. Again, it's free. There's a whole bunch of videos that you watch, and then you take a test afterwards when it's all over. Gives you a really well-rounded look at what Lions are all about at the club level. If you want to do more than that, you can take the master's program, and that's the district and above way. But I strongly recommend USA Canada Forum. The Lions Learning Center at the portal also has these: delegation, coaching, finances. Again, Lions University for club finances. Okay. Unless you've done a lot of management and done a lot of management training, delegation and coaching are some really, really good ones. There's a whole bunch of them, but I'd like these 2 best because a lot of presidents, believe it or not, don't understand delegation. The president that I replaced when I became president for the first time did everything. This individual, no matter what it was, this individual was in charge of it. So we didn't have any committees. We didn't have any committee chairs. We just had some worker bees. And when the individual stepped down, I have a lot of military training. And so I got to looking at it, and I realized that when we were looking at new members, there wasn't a lot of people in this town that used to be members that weren't. And when I started talking to them, they said, well, we joined, but the president wouldn't let us do anything. The individual did it all themselves. Yeah, we helped, but we didn't get a chance to do anything. You have to delegate. You're in charge, but you don't have to do everything. And the other part is coaching, helping people get along. Does the coach go out there and play football? No. He coaches the players to go out and play football. Clubs the same way. Coach your members, help them out, help them do. That's why they join Lions. They join Lions to participate, to serve the community. let them do so. Help them out. Okay. So Lions University for Finances, it really gives you an overview of what the club's finances are, where to go, what to do, stuff like that. And like I said, I can make this 2-3 hours long by covering all of this stuff, but sometimes it's better for you to know where to go, and then you can see it yourself at your speed, and so that you have a better understanding as opposed to just listening to me ramble on. Okay. Everybody seems to think that when you show up for your meeting, you just kind of off the cuff. No, you've got to have an agenda. You have to work with your secretary, your vice presidents, and your committee chairs to understand what it is that you're going to talk about. Because if you don't, I guarantee you're going to forget about half of it. And then your meeting's going to be over and you go, damn, I forgot to talk about this. I forgot to talk about this. Oh, I forgot to mention this. Well, now you got to wait till the next meeting. So now it's another month or another couple weeks, depending how often you have meetings. So when do you prepare the agenda? The day after your club meeting. That's when you start your new agenda. Okay. Review past meetings and minutes. Find out what happened in your past meetings and minutes. You may have not been there. You may have been there, but believe it or not, you go back and read the minutes and you go, wow, I don't remember that. But the minutes were approved and that's the way it is. Send out your agenda prior to the meeting. Well, we had our club meeting tonight. So my wife and I are driving down the road because I'm going to a doctor's appointment because I just had stomach surgery. And my wife is looking at her phone going, have you seen the agenda for tonight's meeting? Nope, I haven't. It's not on my phone. Of course, I didn't look, but I haven't seen it. So she gets a hold of the president and said, did you send out the meeting? He goes, well, yeah, I sent it out. I sent it out on Saturday. So we're driving down the road a little bit farther, and all of a sudden we get a phone call from the president going, yeah, I hit send, but send it to myself and nobody else. Hold on just a minute. So you need to be careful of where it goes. It's all right. Animals come first in this house, I guess, by cat's rule. So be sure it's sent out and it went to the right people. So you want to meet with the secretary and be sure that it gets out, whether you send it out or the secretary sends it out. Be sure that everybody gets a copy of it. Not only that, bring copies to the meeting because somebody's going to say, oh, Mr. President, I forgot my iPad or my computer, or I forgot my copy. Do you have one? Okay. Oops, have copies at the meeting. Secretary, have 20 copies. That's an administrative expense, the paper. This is your blueprint for productive and effective meetings. Okay. You do this, you follow the agenda, and if you're a good meeting person, okay, be very careful of getting off into the weeds and keep control of the meeting because you're going to get a lot of crosstalk is going to start happening. And you got to say, time out, folks. All right. Only one person talks at a time. And Mary Beth, you have the floor. Okay. That's the best way to stop all that crosstalk and be sure that you're designating who's talking next. Okay, LCI resources, meeting management course in the Lions Learning Center. With the new portal, they have a ton of new learning courses. The one that this one is meeting management, was on the old portal, but I understand they've changed a lot, so I have not seen the new ones. But I've been told that a lot of them are really, really good. Time management techniques. There was one club that I visited, and when I was first vice, and their meeting went almost 2 hours. And it was just unbelievable. Everybody was talking, we're talking about highway cleanup, and Sam's talking about, the pancake dinner. And we're going, wait a minute, how did we get to the pancake dinner when we're talking about highway cleanup? Okay. The president had totally lost control. The next year, when I went back as district governor, they had a new president. 1 hour. At the end of an hour, it was over. And so everybody understood, there it is. And they got their talking done, they got their points done, and they were out of there in an hour. And they actually started increasing the number of people attending the meetings, because the meetings weren't a marathon. The meetings were an hour. So time management is a big one. Lions University course 104, effective club meetings. It was a really good one. Again, this is that Lions University 104. The one series is the bachelor's course. Procedures is a body of rules followed by an assembly. It's the definition of a procedure. Okay. Your call to order, kinds of motions, debate, voting, tabling, rescinding, reconsidering motions, recognize your speakers, etc. If you understand how to run an effective meeting using these procedures, okay, you're going to find that running a meeting, specifically in a club, and a club that might have a lot of members, okay, really makes a difference. Like I said, and if you designate who's talking at any given time, then you understand things. But an example of parliamentary procedures is Robert's Rules of Orders. Now, Robert's Rules of Order applies to government agencies, okay? Does not apply to public agencies. However, following Robert's rules is a really good way of getting things done. Now, a lot of clubs, Robert's rules says you have a motion, you have a second, you have discussion, then you have a vote. Normally what happens is somebody will mention something and you spend all the time discussing it, and the club has come to a consensus. Well, we can't do anything without a motion. Well, I so move. I'll second. Then the vote. All right. The whole thing is all of those things happened, not necessarily in the order that Robert's Rule says, but they all happened. You had a motion, you had a second, you had discussion, and you had a vote. Okay. And so you understand Robert's Rules. I have a book of Robert's Rules that I take with me every time I visit a club, because it's surprising the number of people that don't understand voting or tabling something or rescinding something or reconsidering a motion from before or doing a friendly amendment to a motion. Okay. So understand Robert's Rules. It really kind of keep you out of trouble. And you need to know where to go. Robert's Rules/com. Click on the FAQs. Yeah, there's a lot of really good information there. If you don't go down to a bookstore and purchase Robert's Rules, it's not very thick, but it's not page turner really good stuff, but it's got good information to it. Okay. Never go to a meeting without all the previous meetings. Be sure your secretary brings that 3-ring binder or whatever to every meeting, because I guarantee you somebody's going to say something and you're going, well, that's not what was said last month. Yeah, it is. That's exactly what we discussed. So you bring out the minutes and you read what was discussed. Well, I talked about it. No, Sam, you didn't. Well, it's not in the minutes. So, but if everybody says Sam talked about it, then you need to talk to the secretary and find out why. But those minutes have been approved. That's what they are. So you need to bring them so that you can get rid of any controversy about what might have been said. Your agenda. Yeah, I've been there, done that. Gone to the meeting and forgot my agenda. And it's kind of embarrassing when you got to go over to some other member that brought a copy because it got sent out. John, can I borrow your agenda? Because I forgot mine. Doesn't look good. That's another reason why the secretary should always bring paper copies, is to cover your butt when you forget yours. Officer and committee lists. Know who's in charge of what. Know who your committee chairs are and who their members are, so that you don't fumble all over the place and do something stupid, like talk to Sally over there about the pancake dinner, and she's on the highway cleanup. Being prepared to handle any issues. If you understand what's going on, from meeting to meeting, you might hear issues. You might get a phone call about something or someone that you may have to deal with, but be prepared to handle any of these issues. And if it comes up, you can table it or you can squash it, because you know what's going on. Or you can simply say, well, sorry, Sally, this is the first I've heard of this. Let me look into it. Okay. Don't just shut somebody down unless you know exactly what's been going on. After the meeting, use a follow-up checklist and start working on your next agenda. Look at the minutes that they just published. Look at your agenda. Look at the notes that you made, hopefully, as you were going through your agenda, things that you voted on, things that you talked about, and start looking and working on your next agenda. As a vice president or president or vice president presides over the meetings, there may be times when conflict arises. Anytime you're in a group of people, 20, 30, or whatever, there's going to be some misunderstandings. There's going to be some personality conflicts. Remember, the president or vice president is the standing authority and must understand how to manage these types of situations. I mean, if you're not there as the president, then the vice president is, okay? And so then they're the president. So they, as the vice president, need to understand what's going on. So if you're not going to be at the meeting, you need to be sure that the person that's going to be emceeing the meeting knows about as much what's going on as you do. Oh, learn how to manage group interaction. As much of this as I do, it's a WAG situation. I can't tell you one way or another what works and what doesn't work, because what works for one person doesn't work for another person, or what works for one group might not work for another group. However, the Langs Learning Center Conflict Resolution is a really good course. And again, that's Langs Learning Center. And there's one at the Lions Forum too. University Course 109, Conflict Resolution. It's going to give you some good ideas. Some of them may apply, some of them won't. You know, you may just have to tap dance through some of this. Hopefully your experiences in life will help you out. Be familiar with the LCI dispute resolution guidelines for conflict requiring mediation. That's on the LCI website. Committees. Appoint standing, permanent, and special single-use limited time period committee chairs and members. Again, it's your responsibility to ensure that there is a chairperson in charge of all of these committees. You can ask for volunteers or you can assign, but you won't want to assign somebody to the highway cleanup chair who absolutely doesn't want to do it, because then it's not going to happen. So try to match a person's wants and likes with certain committees. Now, you're going to have some people that don't want to be in charge of anything, but they want to help with everything. Okay? That may be good. But there's not much you can do about it because there's always going to be those people. Isn't that right, Mr. Delaney?
Yes, sir. You're right.
Work with your vice presidents to select chairs and members. Don't take it upon yourself to be the deciding factor of everything. Work with your officers. Work with your secretary. Work with your treasurer. Work with the board. You know, ask around after meetings, before meetings, during the week. You know, talk to your club members. So vice presidents should understand that they need to oversee, assist, mentor, and report to you, the president, what's going on in these committees. They are not there to take over. The committee chair is in charge of that committee. They're a fly on the wall, maybe to help the committee chair make a decision or give information, but that's the extent of it. Use your vice presidents, your first and your second, or third if you have one, to help with the committee chairs. And then they report back to you as to what's going on. So when you have your club meetings and you get to committee reports, so Sam, what's going on with the highway cleanup? You may already know, but he has to report to the rest of the club what's going on. That's why that's a part of the agenda. Match members' interests, skills, and knowledge to assignments, especially new members. That's hopefully as you come through the chairs and you've been in the club for a while, you sort of kind of understand who likes what, who does what, who helps where, and things like that. And don't assume, like I did on my first year as president, that only the ladies cook. Yeah, I was taken to task on that. And we had a young man that graduated from a culinary college, all right, and is an excellent cook, because I made that mistake, assuming only the ladies want to cook. So bring in some new blood. Try to help those committee chairs that have been doing the same thing year after year after year after year. You know, the military trained me that my job was always to train myself out of a job, because even though I was in charge, what happens if I get killed? Then what happens? Well, my replacement already knows what's going on. So if I'm taken out, everything continues. But by bringing in new blood and letting the old guard teach the new blood feels a little bit more encouraged about what they're doing. Jack, for you specifically, be sure that you understand that they should be helping you because you're new to Lions, right?
No, I've been a Lion since I retired from the Army in 1999, but I was in
Okay.
but I was in Ohio, and I
All
have
right.
recently, as of Halloween, moved to Montana. I
Okay.
just don't know how Montana Lions work.
See, so I misunderstood. I didn't listen well enough. So, Jack, I apologize for that.
Not a problem.
So provide job descriptions and old records. Well, I've never been part of the highway cleanup. How does it go? Well, here's the 3-ring binder. This is the person that you need to get a hold of. This is the guy at the highway department that puts out the markers. And this is where you get the reflective vests. And this is where you get the bags. And this is what you do with the bags when they're full. There should be a binder for that committee for them to look at. Regular reporting. Be sure all the committees report every meeting. There should be committee reports. And then every committee has a report, even though one that's doesn't come up for another 3 months. They should be planning ahead. That pancake dinner isn't until, 3 months from now. Well, okay. Do you have your committee members? Well, no, I don't have them all yet. Well, okay. You need to get going on this. You need to start thinking about, where are you going to get your pancake mix? Where are you going to get your syrup? I mean, all of those things. Communicate regularly with the committee chairs via your vice presidents. They're your link. Again, see what's going on? You're delegating. You don't have to do this, but you need the information. So you have other people do this stuff for you because you don't have the time to go to every chair and sit down with them to find out what's going on. But when you've got 3 or 4 other people working for you, you do. It keeps you in the loop, keeps you aware of progress, problems, and achievements, because you want to know about this before the club meeting. Because the club meeting is not the time to start arguing over a problem. You already knew about the problem. Chances are it's already been fixed. Won't even come up in the meeting because you've already taken care of it. It doesn't all have to happen at the meeting. Keep the committees focused. That's self-explanatory. Don't overlook follow-up. Just because you worked with them and they're on track doesn't mean they stayed on track. Or they had this issue and you resolved it. And so 2 weeks later, you want to go back and say, how did that problem work out? Did the fix work? Okay. That lets the committees know that you're interested. So let some of the ex officios, like the immediate past president or the immediate past president, work with you. Okay. Don't just assume because they're out, and you're in. No, they have a year or 2 or 3 of experience that can help you. So work with them. And this is probably the most important one, is to ensure that your elections comply with the Constitution and bylaws. I mean, if you're watching everything that's going on right now in politics, and they're talking about voting, and it is a big deal. To know that somebody's vote is not accepted or not counted, yeah. You want to get somebody pissed off in a heartbeat? Yeah. Oversee the elections or delegate it. Maybe have your first vice ensure that the election all goes correctly. Technically speaking, before a person can vote, they've got to show their membership card because you don't get a membership card unless you're in good standing with the club. And if you're not in good standing with the club, you're not allowed to vote, which means they paid their dues and the treasurer has given them their membership card. Now they're allowed to vote. So at convention, when we're voting, there's usually a person at the door. You have to show your card and he looks at it and said, okay, because it's a 24-25 card, not a 21-22 card. And it's signed by the secretary or the treasurer. And then he goes in and lets you vote. And so he wants to ensure that the room isn't so full that people are overlooking other people's shoulders on how they're voting. Nope, it's private. But it's open and meets the deadlines. And again, review the standard club constitution and bylaws, the LA2.
Mike,
So, yes.
when it comes to voting at the convention, the clubs are supposed to send in a list of who their designated delegates are. And then they have to show their card when they register to be able to vote. And then they're allowed to vote. If they don't have that card, they're not allowed.
Well, your club, and you're responsible for this, you get one vote for every 10 members. If you have 45, you get 5. Okay, but it's up to you, it's up to the club to vote who these voting members are. It isn't up to you to pick them. The club is supposed to vote for them. But that's what you get. So it's very important that you bring that card with you.
But also all past district governors are automatically allowed to vote at convention.
Yeah, that's not up to the presidents of the clubs. So
No.
we're just worried about.
That's just information for the gentleman that moved out here.
Yeah. So
Right. I'm a past district governor. I'm aware of that.
That's a district thing. Okay. Appoint a nomination committee. It's not up to you to decide who the new officers are going to be. Your nominating committee at that point is supposed to look and go around and canvass people to find out who would like to be next, who would like to be the treasurer, who would like to be the treasurer or the secretary. Is somebody interested in going through what we say the chairs to be a club president? So, who would be third vice or second vice or whatever. And so then the nominating committee brings that forward and then that's what's voted on. Submit the slate of candidates, all right, to the club. Nominations from the floor are permissible, even though the nominating committee has their new second, their new treasurer, their new secretary, and maybe new directors. You can get nominations from the floor. Hold the election, announce the results after the election. Secretary submits the Lions Club officer report by May 15th. And a lot of clubs don't make it by May 15th. A lot of clubs don't even have their meetings till the end of May. So hopefully you're done by May 15th. Because like I say, a lot of clubs don't have their meetings until the end of the month. So my club being one of them. But get them there as fast as you can. Within your club, well, it's communications within your club. How do you communicate within the club? Is it all done verbally at the meetings? And so you got to come to the meeting just to understand what's going on. But there should be other ways for members to see what's going on. A club bulletin, an email, like the agenda, district activities and newsletters get passed out or sent. The district activities and newsletters is sent to everybody every month. I know that for a fact because my wife is in charge of taking care of it. Okay. LCI, LCIF. I know LCIF activities are because Larry and I are responsible for getting it out there. Ensure committee reports to the body and the club, okay, to the board of directors. Publish club and board of director minutes. Be sure that they're there. They're open for every club member to look at. Something I don't have in here is Facebook or a club webpage. Okay. We just recently started our web page in our Facebook. So anybody within the club can go there and see what's going on. We publish quite a bit of information that way. The nice thing about that, even on the outside of your club, that they can go onto Facebook and do the same thing. They can see what's going on in the club. But you need to be careful about information going outside. You need to establish who's responsible for that, such as newspapers or magazines or that kind of stuff. Because you don't want, 15 members of the club getting together with a local newspaper and telling the newspaper what's going on. It should be one person, whether it's you or a person that you've delegated to be in charge of that, because that can turn into a real bag of worms real quick. So your secretary, committee chair, vice president, somebody is in charge of that and needs to be sure that they're the only ones that do external communications with media. I mean, if you've got somebody that's really good on web pages, great for web or Facebook, that works too. Be sure you're made aware of all requests for assistance. You'll get a request. Some club member will come at the meeting and say, Joanne down the road really needs help doing this and this and this, and we need to do something. Well, she needed the help last week. Well, that doesn't do us a hell of a lot of good because our meeting is this week. Okay. So if there is a need for a request for assistance, you need to be aware of that, and the club needs to know that you need to be informed of it, because you may need to put a committee together real quick to go help her or do whatever it is the request is. Okay. And then follow up with the responders. Okay. For those people that went and did whatever it is that needed to be, get together with them afterwards. How did it go? What all happened? Again. Be sure your good public relations chair really understands newspapers and the public. Okay, LCI website for sample press releases. There's all kinds of this kind of stuff at LCI. Best, quickest way to get to LCI and the web page is through montanalliance.org. And before I forget, and I think I don't know if I have it in here or not. One of the first things you need to do as president is go to LCI and register yourself. Okay, so that they understand you're the president. Okay, if you don't have an LCI login, then excuse the expression, you're sucking hind tit. You're so far behind everything now that you're backing up. Okay, you need to be able to log into LCI, so you have your password and you log in and all of that. So be sure you do that. So Lions University course, public relations. It's that's a 100 course for bachelors. Send articles and pictures to local news media. Okay, Facebook, website. Send pictures and articles to your district so they can get them on the newsletter and on the district's webpage. E-Clubhouse, Twitter, Instagram, whichever you want to do. Okay. Electronic media today is the way you bring in young adults, because that's how they communicate. Okay. We have some kids that don't know anything about email because everything they do is text or Twitter or Instagram. Okay. Well, I sent you an email. I go, what's email? Okay. Members look to the president. Yes, they do. You're the head of the snake, as they say. For leadership, this includes guidance, motivation, help, solving problems. How we used to say in the military when I was in the Navy, you come to me with a problem. I said, well, let me turn my collar devices around. I'll be the chaplain for a little while, and you can tell me your problems. Okay. But listening is harder than talking. Sometimes they just want to talk. You should just listen. Build a shared vision among the club members. Let the club members know what your vision is for them. I mean, if you walk in and say, well, I'm just going to do the status quo. We're just going to continue to do the same thing we've done every month, all year long. We're not going to change anything. We're not going to do anything. Well, is that helping the club? I don't know. Is that helping your committee or your community? No, it's not. Basically, what you're saying at that point is our community doesn't need any more than what we're doing. And I have not found a community that is that way at all. But I have found a lot of clubs that do the same thing, at the same time, every year, and that's all they do. So they're not doing their communities any service. So build a shared vision so all the club members know where you're planning on going. Guide, encourage members toward reaching club goals and personal goals. Recommend to somebody to go to USA Lions Forum and do the bachelor's program. Tell them to go to convention. Tell them to go to the international convention. It's a hoot. I go every year. I love it. I have a lot of fun. Okay. For me, personal goals. Find out what kind of a goal do you have here as a club or as a member. Help them achieve that. Provide leadership opportunities. Maybe they haven't thought about being a secretary or a treasurer or going through the chairs, becoming third, second, first, and then president, or maybe just a director. Okay. Unless you ask, sometimes you don't know. Beware of leadership training, such as this. We will be doing this again at convention, where it'll be in person. Encourage attendance at training. Any Lions training is good training. It really, truly is. A mentoring program, especially for new members. Have somebody that will take somebody else, a new member, under the wing to help them to understand what this club and this community is all about, because that's where it's at. And then you'll have a member for life. Every member has an important role to play. And that's really a hard one to understand, but it's easy to understand. Every member has an important role to play. You just need to find out what that important role is. That's one of your jobs as a president. Lead by example. Don't say one thing and do something else. If you're going to say this is how it's going to be, then that's how it's going to be, and you live by that rule also. Lead by example. Okay. Military taught me to lead up front. Follow me. Okay. People will follow. People will help. It's the guy in the back telling everybody, I want you to go out there and die first. Okay. That's not how it works. Start here, MontanaLions.org. You go there, you can go anywhere in Lions. Literally anywhere in Lions. All the information is there. Go to MontanaLions.org. Go and play. Click on things. Download things. Just go in and see what's there. You'd be surprised what we have as a resource for Montana Lions. Okay. As a president, the more you understand our website, I think the easier you'll find things because there's a tremendous amount of resources on it. Past presidents, officers, experienced Lions. Okay. Could you call me and ask me questions? Absolutely. Not a problem. Be more than happy to talk to any one of you about any issue that involves Lions for whatever it is. Any of your past presidents, okay? Some other Lion, Jack, like yourself, that's bringing experiences from some other MD, okay, multiple district, okay? Because you have experiences there that maybe we should look at doing here. That was one of the things that I really liked about being district governor is when I started meeting with all these clubs, I brought all kinds of stuff back to my club and we started doing things we never even thought of because they were really good ideas. And guess what? My community needed those good ideas. So don't be afraid to voice your opinion, Jack. Let us know because you have some very good experiences that might help all of us.
Will do.
Global membership, Tim, GMT, GLT, GST, all those G's. we have so many G's, we don't know what to do. Okay. But we do have zone region chairs, your governors. We have a whole slew of district expertise that we can bring to bear based on any issues you might have. Lions Learning Center, developing leaders. USA Canada Forum. I can't stress the bachelor's program anymore. Bachelor's and the master's. There's an awful lot of information, and it is really good information. And it's learning at your speed whenever you have time. In your transition, organize your records, meet and transfer, meet with new officers. Be sure your new treasurer is meeting with the old treasurer. The new secretary is meeting with the old secretary. You're meeting with the outgoing president, and bring in your first vice as part of it because his or her training starts now also. Because if something happens to you, guess what? Tag, they're it. Okay. So don't forget about them. Bring them in. Discuss transitional projects. Where are we at in something? Okay. Because there's always something that started in June that transitions in July. And by the way, when it transitions in July, you're now in charge of it. But you didn't start it. Okay? You need to be aware of what's going on. Ensure proper communications for ongoing projects. Know what's happening. Recognize your Lions and others for their hard work and dedication. You come up to the end of your year, and you're going to hear the person, you're going to say, Sally Mae, you have done such a fabulous job. We want to do this. And they're going to go, no. She goes, I do this because I like it. I don't need any recognition. Yeah, they do. Okay. When you bring them up front and you recognize them with a plaque, or maybe even so far as to do a Melvin Jones for them, they're going to be in tears. They're going to be joyful. They're going to be appreciative. Okay. And so anything that you can do to recognize the hard work and dedication that your members do. There's plaques, there's medals, there's a whole slew of stuff on the LCI catalog that you as the president can get just because you're the president. Okay, if you want some plaque for somebody, you order the damn thing. Okay, who's paying for it? The treasurer. So there should be a budget item for you. If not, it's however much money you have in the administration, okay, to do those types of things. District awards. We have, there will probably be a bunch at convention. The outgoing governor always has some that he gives out for people that go above and beyond. Club awards, those are yours. I recommend an awards banquet at the end of your year. Make a big deal out of it. Okay. It's a sit down dinner with just club members and then their wives. If they're not members, that's fine. But it's a time for you to recognize people and for the club to just kind of let their hair down, if you want to use that term, but to just socialize and not worry about a damn meeting. Okay. So the duties of your position, how to plan your year, leadership expectations, where to find resources, how to enjoy your year. Okay. Hopefully we covered all those things. I kept it to my hour and a half. Are there any questions for anybody? Hopefully I covered enough for you. Hopefully I gave you enough information, where to go, what to do, what to see, what to know. Understand I'm available at any time for any questions. But the presidency, in my opinion, is the easiest position there is, literally. Because if you know how to delegate and you know how to do everything else we talked about, being the president's pretty easy. Secretary and treasurer are probably the hardest.
Mike,
So, yes, sir.
is your presentation going to be available online for us to share with maybe folks that are not on this?
Mike Collins has recorded it. So the answer to that would be yes. But I would have to get together with Mike Collins to find out where. It's usually it'll probably be on YouTube.
Okay.
That's where it was at last time. But I can get together with Mike and find out where, and I can get back to you, Mr. Delaney, and get that information to you.
Thank you.
Is there some way you could put that onto the Montana Lions website?
.org, yeah.
I think we can put the link on there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
And the answer to that would be yes. There is a way of doing that. I'll get together with Mike and figure out how to do that, and we'll go from there.
And
What's that? Well, the secretary says it will be on the website.
most of the past presentations are already on there. So it just, you go to the website and there's links to, and once we get these processed, there'll be a link for this one too. And Mike, you could send out, I sent you all the emails. So if you want to send them your PowerPoint and any other information, you should have those now.
I can. Because I have it saved here, so I can send it to each of you if you want it. Mike Delaney, would you like that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Will it be on montanalions.org as well?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll all be on montanalions.org.
That should be fine then.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. I've used up my 90 minutes. I appreciate it. I hope you learned something.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
Mike.
you.
You all have a good
Thanks,
night.
Mike. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.